Blessings, beloveds. Welcome back. Anastasia, Cosmic Astrologer, with you guys today. And today's discussion is going to be an overview on the month of March, the astrological influences, and what to, I guess, expect, really. I'd like to start, though, by saying that when we are looking at the transiting planets for a day, a month, a week, a year, whatever the case may be, but certainly more in the short term, first of all, it's important to understand that as these cosmic forces are moving through the zodiac, naturally they are changing our experience, as it were, through ingressing into a new sign, transiting a new part of your chart, going retrograde or direct, all these things coming to play into significance. When these transiting planets move into an area of your chart, which is why when I go ahead in a moment and discuss the various things that are going on for the month of March, it would be really useful for you guys to match that up with where these planets land in your birth chart. So by doing that, you're basically able to get a more direct or make more specific correlations to which part of your life these particular energies and in their movement will basically trigger things, highlight things, stress things, enhance things, and so forth. So it's not just a case of knowing that Mercury's in Pisces and it's retrograde soon and so on and so forth. Well, for Mercury, when Mercury goes retrograde, and let's perhaps just start there, today is the 1st of March, by the way, 2019. The 7th of March is a really pretty powerful day, actually, because there's a lot of change going on cosmically with the planetary gods and goddesses. And the first thing I'll talk about is Mercury is stationary direct. So Mercury is in his shadow at the moment, and a lot of people seem to be experiencing what's really to be in full bloom starting at around about the 7th of March. Now, Mercury in Pisces, to begin with, is not a left brain Mercury. When you're talking about applying logic and practicality and wanting details and data and information, you don't really see that with Mercury in Pisces. You see that with Mercury in Virgo or with Mercury in Gemini. So Mercury in Pisces is in what we call its detriment. So when Mercury is in Pisces, which is its detriment position, and then in addition to that goes retrograde as well, and in addition to that forms a conjunction to Neptune, which it's already done that. It did that not so long ago. Mercury was conjunct Neptune, and that sort of started a bit of a flavor and a theme, you could say, for the month of February, just in terms of Mercury function, all right, which is, perhaps being very confused about certain things or not getting clear communication lines with certain people or certain situations in your life. So as Mercury proceeds forward in Pisces, because Mercury goes retrograde on the 7th of March, Mercury is going to go all the way back and find himself next to Neptune again. So we're going to have more of that. Now, Mercury retrograde, as most of us know, it is often quite problematic. There's often a lot of delays, there's often miscommunications, there's often blocks, there's often technological issues, emails going missing. There's also the world of information and data basically gets really clogged up and gets really messed up when Mercury goes retrograde. We know that. We understand that. It happens a few times a year, so it's nothing new necessarily. But it is good to be aware of it, leading up to it, so that you can perhaps try and put some things into place that might enable you to deal with that energy better, depending on where this transiting Mercury will be in your chart. So wherever Pisces is in your birth chart, that's where Mercury is transiting at the moment. So Mercury goes retrograde on the 7th of March. He'll eventually catch up to Neptune again. And, look, this, quite apart from the world of data being quite chaotic and information being lost or not translated as it perhaps was intended, quite apart from those levels, the Mercury in Pisces conjunct Neptune is probably adds to the story of whatever's going on in your life and the way you are viewing your reality. Because this reality that we live in, this reality is not the only reality, and certainly everyone's perspective on reality is quite different. We don't all see things in the same way. So the highlight of this will be, well, what is the story in your head about your reality at the moment? And that will be given context when you look at where Mercury is transiting in your chart. So it's kind of like reality versus other realities or altered states of other realities or consciousness, or connecting to another paradigm, a completely different way of looking and understanding things. It can be multiple realities. We're talking about Pisces energy, Neptune energy, and Neptune particularly being the source of ultimate truth. Neptune has many different faces. It's a very tricky energy. And the biggest reason it's so tricky and so challenging to handle is because it's really not of this reality. It's not of this earth plane. The way it seems to come through very strongly on this earth plane is through the world of glamour, for one, and also through the world of artistry, and also what we can download spiritually and integrate into this earthly domain. That's how Neptune gets filtered, if you like, from that physical perspective. That's how we start to connect to it or relate to it, or draw from its energy. But Neptune in its purest form is about the ultimate truth to all realities, because this is not the only reality. Rob Hand's quote, which is one of my favorite quotes, which I've mentioned before, is Saturn is the illusion that there is only one reality, and Neptune is the reality that there are many. Now, that's a very, very powerful quote from Rob Hand. And if you really understand astrology and you understand the meaning of Saturn and the meaning of Neptune, you'll understand just how brilliant that quote actually is. Because normally we would associate Saturn with reality and we would associate Neptune with what's not real, as it were. But this quote kind of spins that on its head and actually lets you know that Saturn's limitations, because of Saturn's pathology and psychology on an archetypal level, which emanates from fear of being controlled by his children, which is why he swallowed all his children. He ate them, except for Zeus. So that psychology in Saturn is very strong. It's very strong in all of us. We all have Saturn in our chart. So Saturn imposes this false sense in our psyche, if you like, that this is it. This is the only game. This is the only reality. But it's not. And this is where Neptune has the absolute potential to open us up to these other realities that exist as well. So it's a funny energy, when you're working with Neptune and Mercury in Pisces. I think, Mercury goes retrograde on the 7th, and it'll basically be retrograde till the end of the month, you could say, right, till the end of March. So we're looking at a 3-week period of possible miscommunications, confusions, um, disillusionment, perhaps disappointment. Disappointment is a very, very good word for the energy of Neptune. And the only reason that is because the power of Pisces and Neptune is such that it connects us to our ideals, which is beautiful, which is wonderful, which is great. But if we can't materialize those ideals, and if we only project the ideal onto this mundane earth plane and don't apply other ways of materializing these ideals, if we just kind of sit back and dream, in other words, and just wish for this to happen or wish for that to happen, that's kind of la la land. It doesn't really get you anywhere. So this is why we end up experiencing disappointment when it comes to Neptune energy and Pisces energy, because the two fish that symbolize the Pisces archetype, if you remember, or if you don't know, are bound by a cord. So when you see the Pisces depicted in the different art around, you will see that there's actually a cord that holds these two fish together, and they are also swimming in opposite directions. So one fish is going that way and one fish is going that way. And that basically symbolizes that the Pisces archetype is such that this is why Pisces is a mutable sign as well, and it represents duality, really, because one fish is connected to the mystical, spiritual domains of all the different layers of this world, and certainly way beyond, out of this world. And then the other fish is tied down here to this earth plane, and this is the internal, inherent sort of conflict and dilemma of the Pisces energy. If you have Pisces strong in you, you will relate to this. I have Pisces quite strong, and I really do relate to this. So it's that experience of ecstasy and pain, if you like. It's the experience of really connecting and resonating to a higher force and truth that is so beyond beautiful. It's so beyond ecstasy that you could almost say that there's a memory within you that remembers something more powerful and more beautiful that exists beyond these bounds of this reality. So that lives very strongly in the Pisces archetype. And then there's, as I said, the other fish that's bound here on this earth plane and has to be here, simply has to be here, incarnate in this body and deal with and work through the various challenges that are presented. So this energy rises very strong when we have a lot of Pisces energy going on. It's the desire to sometimes just, really want to escape this reality because things are just too difficult or too messy or just too painful. That's one experience. Then on the other hand, it's also the experience of really, opening up your intuition, really developing your spiritual components to life, cleaning yourself up spiritually, experiencing greater sense of compassion and empathy and love, for people in your private world or even just for the world at large, for greater causes. It brings up all that sort of stuff, but it's a real split of um, the ultimate reality and truth and the current reality that we are so affected by because we are in it. It's right here in this immediate physical, dense reality that we experience on a day-to-day basis. So that's, I mean, on a bit more of a deeper level or even a broader level, this is the energy of Pisces that comes up. So Mercury in Pisces retrograde, soon to conjunct Neptune as well, can really bring in a lot of confusion, and it certainly will mess things up from the point of view of the world of data and logical application to things. So don't try to find logical reasoning or reasons for what you're trying to understand. You're actually better off tapping into, tuning into, and opening up that part of you that is connected to the ultimate truth, to the ultimate source, to the divine. So, getting in touch with that deeper part of you that is intuitive, getting in touch with the higher mind. You're better off doing that while Mercury is retrograde for the next it begins on the 7th of March, so we've still got a week, less than a week, but we're starting to experience these energies already, and we'll experience this till the end of the month. So use the time to sharpen intuition, do creative writing, go on a retreat if you can, do some spiritual practices, allow yourself to go into those dream states on a productive level, not from the point of view of escapism in a unhealthy way, which is very easy to do, because if you're going through a really, really challenging time in your life, then most of us don't want to deal with pain. In fact, all of us don't really. I don't think anyone wants to experience pain. So when something is painful in our life, the most natural and typical response to that is to try and shut it down, ignore it, or escape from it in some kind of way. But sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, the very thing we need to do is feel our way through that. And I say feel because in this case we're talking about the sign of Pisces. So Pisces is the emotional, it's the floodgates of all emotions. It holds, that the collective unconscious from that emotional body and emotional space is all held within Pisces, that archetype, that energy. So when there's a lot of Pisces energy activated, we can also tune into, the collective pain. And people who are operating at high vibrational states, who have a lot of consciousness and awareness, people who are empaths, people who are highly sensitive and very in tune, can be, strongly impacted by these sorts of energies more than the average person that, let's say, is just more dense to these vibrations. So in my experience, at least, the more you clean yourself up spiritually, the more you vibrate at a higher level, the more you open your intuition and your third eye, the more you work with yourself on those levels, the more sensitive you become. There's no way out of that, So for those that are prone to be more sensitive anyway by their very nature, and that you're doing that kind of work in your life, just keep in mind that when there's really sensitive energies taking place with all this Pisces stuff at the moment, and the month of March is very colored by this energy. So take precaution. So don't engage in things that are going to be painful or hurtful unnecessarily. Spend time, reflecting, time out. Spend time doing very gentle things. One really powerful way to work with the Pisces energy in an effective way is to engage in gentle practices. It's not about, bungee jumping or skydiving. It might be if you're an Aries or a Scorpio. But point being that this energy can be very effective if you use it in a way that's conducive to what this energy can produce. So it's not about sitting there thinking about logical left brain data and ideas and planning, because that's going to look quite confusing at this time, and you're not going to get the clear answers that you want. The other thing with Neptune there as well, it can be very deceptive. That could be that it can be that somebody deliberately deceives you, or it can be that somebody is not intentionally trying to deceive you, but your interpretation and your perception of what's being offered is very, very different to what the person intends. So this is, a very interesting energy to watch, because these are the sorts of issues that can come up. In addition to that particular day, the 7th of March, we have a new moon in Pisces. So, here's more Pisces energy. And this new moon is conjunct Neptune. So there's a very heavy dose of Neptune, a vibrational energy for the month of March. So again, this new moon, because it's conjunct Neptune as well, it can create massive, massive, massive disillusionment or disappointment. So just be very aware that your sense of reality, this reality out here, it can be really blurred, for the month of March. So use the energy again to access higher truths within your own self. Use the energy to access creativity. Use the energy to do some creative writing if you're into that kind of creative work. The 7th of March, where Mercury is in Pisces and goes retrograde, and we have a new moon in Pisces conjunct Neptune, it's that Mercury going retrograde naturally is always an internal reflective process anyway. So it is about taking a step back and not trying to push too much out there, well, from a mental perspective anyway. So the new moon in Pisces, I made a little note here for myself. I said, this energy is not about getting your left brain, logical mind active. You need to access your higher mind. You need to access God's mind, as it were, because that's where the ultimate truth resides. So this is a really powerful time on a vibrational level to access these sorts of reflections and experiences. But if you're not doing that, and you're just simply persisting to try and get the truth from the left brain Mercury perspective through certain situations in your life through the month of March, depending on where this new moon falls in your birth chart and depending where Mercury retrograde falls in your birth chart, that area of life, it can be quite confusing during the month of March. And if you've already got layers of things going on, then this energy is just simply going to add to that. So just be very aware. So the other thing that's it's just really kind of mind-blowing, really, 7th of March, Mercury retrograde in Pisces, new moon in Pisces, and good old Uranus finally leaves his journey from being in Aries for the last 8-9 years. So Uranus will ingress into Taurus on the 7th of March as well. So it's a big day. There's lots of new things going on, new cycles beginning. We've also had Chiron ingress into Aries. So that's actually, I'll go to that in a minute because there's a few things I want to say. But the month of March is really depicting the completion of really long cycles that we've gone through with completing his journey in Pisces, going into Aries, and Uranus completing his journey through Aries and going into Taurus. So those of you that are Taurus will experience, depending on, what degrees your sun is at, but certainly over the next 8 years, you will experience having Uranus conjunct your sun, right? Somewhere in this 8-year period. If you are born right at the beginning of Taurus, then you will experience Uranus conjunct your sun basically starting from this year in a week's time. If you're a Scorpio, you will experience Uranus opposite your sun. If you're a Leo or an Aquarian, you'll experience Uranus forming a square to your sun. And this same sequence applies with any other personal planet in your chart in any of these signs. So the fixed signs, in other words, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius, the 4 fixed signs are really going to go through tremendous, incredibly powerful shifts over the next 8 years. And, just remember that fixed signs are very stubborn in their own way. That's why they're called fixed. But the positive thing to fixed signs is that they stay with things. So when they have to work through something, there's this inherent sort of sense or drive within these signs, Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, that realizes they need to stay with this and work through it. And that's one of the most powerful qualities of the fixed signs. So the Uranus in Taurus is going to really create these long-lasting shifts that are going to occur over the next 8 years. That's a longer, obviously, trajectory, but it is important because it is a brand new cycle that begins this month on the 7th of March when we have a new moon and when Mercury goes retrograde as well. So as I said, there's a lot of completions and there's a lot of new beginnings. The completions are with the Chiron finishing in Pisces and Uranus finishing in Aries. So 2 very long cycles with Chiron and Uranus over the next 8 years where incredible things are going to take place because these planets have a fairly long cycle. So we're not talking about the next 8 days, we're talking about the next 8 years. It's a long chunk out of our life. So again, where does transiting Uranus hit off your chart when he enters Aries? Where is that going to be? Because that area of your life, even if you're not any of these 4 signs that I mentioned, the 4 fixed signs, well, you will have transiting Uranus in that part of your chart where Taurus is. So that part of your chart is going to revolutionize, essentially, because Uranus is about revolutions. It sort of it creates a lot of instability, but it can also bring incredible freedom and that sense of exhilaration and the sense of breaking free from a lot of old structures, whether that's mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and so forth. So very powerful ingresses taking place. It's already begun with Chiron in Aries. It's going to continue when Uranus moves into Taurus on the 7th of March. We're going to have a new moon on that day. Mercury is going to go retrograde. The other thing that's going on as well is on the 2nd of March, which is tomorrow, Venus will ingress into Aquarius, which is pretty lovely actually because, the last few weeks we've had Venus in Capricorn, which on her own that would be fine, but she had to experience going over Saturn and Pluto. And that's not an easy experience at all. And I know that's been quite challenging for a lot of people, and it's brought up a lot of intense and dramatic issues in people's lives, obviously specifically in relationships and just the relating world. And because Juno recently went into Gemini as well, there's been a lot of matters highlighted around the very strong need for needing to be heard in your relationships, in your partnership, marriage, or whatever. So that, remember, Juno is the wife of Jupiter, of Zeus, and she was quite an angry wife. So when she transits through the signs, she brings up and highlights any matters that have to do with injustice and inequality and unfairness in a partnership. So in Gemini, naturally, it's going to be around the areas of communication and being heard. And so Juno is still in Gemini at the moment and will be there, I think, for a couple of months. But anyway, Venus going into Aquarius kind of lightens things up for us. Venus in Aquarius is quite an interesting place. It's not a difficult place, but it can spit up some challenges because, Aquarius is also the sign of fairness and equality. So again, Venus in Aquarius it'll be more of a detached approach and more of an objective sort of view on things as well. Not as dramatic, but any areas that don't seem fair or equal will shine, will come to light while Venus is transiting in Aquarius pretty much for the rest of this month. And I just want to go back to when Venus was in Capricorn and she joined Saturn and Pluto. There was also a lot of opportunity there for transformation to occur, in relationships and in the matters of money as well. But it would have been a very serious and heavy undertone because Capricorn's quite a serious sign. It's quite a serious and heavy, dense sort of energy. So, going over Saturn and Pluto is not an easy experience at all. Some people have been very distressed during the month of February while Venus has been there. And what I want to also say is Saturn-Pluto energy is probably one of the most difficult combinations. If you're born with a Saturn-Pluto conjunction, your life is very much about working through some very, very deep psychological resistances that you may have on a number of different levels. That can come through health matters, that can come through relationship matters, that can come through family matters, it can come through career, professional life as well. It just depends where the Saturn-Pluto is in your chart. The reason I'm talking about that is because at the moment, Saturn and Pluto are in Capricorn, obviously, and they're working their way towards a conjunction. Well, Saturn is working his way to joining Pluto and forming a conjunction. And on a just to extend further for a bigger picture view, this Saturn-Pluto, Saturn chasing Pluto, as it were, is an energy that is with us really for the rest of this year. And what's going to happen is this. At the end of, or around about the 24th of April, Pluto will go retrograde. On the 30th of April, Saturn will go retrograde. So as a result of this retrograde period that these planets go through, Saturn is not going to have the chance to catch up and form an exact conjunction to Pluto. This is important. I'll explain why in a moment. The exact conjunction of Saturn-Pluto doesn't occur till next year, 2020, the month of January. So what happens is, as I said, Pluto goes retrograde, Saturn goes retrograde, and then finally what will happen in September is that Saturn will be stationary direct, and then Pluto will be stationary direct in October, so the following month. So they're doing this dance all of this year of getting quite close to each other, but because of the retrograde periods, they end up separating again and not getting close enough to each other to form a conjunction until January next year. But the energy and the build-up of this conjunction is in the ether, you could say, is there for all of us. And it's a build-up of a very, very, very powerful and intense energy that is by no means easy. And what I'd like to read you is this, just to give you a bit of a different perspective. Now, I'll show you the book. I'll show it now just in case I forget, because sometimes I do that. This is the book that I'm about to read from. I highly recommend this book if you're serious about your astrology. What is written in this book, and I've said this before, is not lightweight. It's not fluffy. It's not feel-good stuff. It's really quite confronting, but very real as well. And it's one interpretation, but I find that this guy's interpretations are just amazing, absolutely brilliant. So the Saturn-Pluto energy, as I said, in my opinion, is one of the most challenging configurations, whether you've got it natally or whether you experience it via transit, which everybody is going to experience it all of this year, and the exactness will be at the beginning of next year. But those of you who have Capricorn planets and Cancer planets and Libra and Aries are really going to feel these energies a lot more. So the principle is hard labor and cruelty. This is what he says about a Saturn-Pluto energy. The psychological correspondence is, on a positive, is tenacity and toughness. So people who have Saturn-Pluto energy in their chart natally, or where we experience this via transit in our own charts, these are some of the possibilities and potential manifestations of how this energy can show up. As I said, tenacity and toughness, endurance, the capability to make record efforts of the highest possible order. It's a very, very powerful energy. The ability to perform the most difficult work with extreme self-discipline. Self-denial and renunciation. It's also connected to magicians and very skillful people. It accesses something so deep within us that our left brain can't even begin to understand. It's a Pluto experience. Pluto is the one that dictates to Saturn. That's what's happening with this energy. It's not the other way around. Saturn will never dictate to Pluto. Pluto is the most powerful planet in the chart. So just to go on further, on a more, that was obviously the a positive expression or manifestation that can show. The negative expression of this energy can be a hard and unfeeling disposition, also cold-heartedness, severity, tendency to violence, a fanatical adherence to one's principles once they have been adopted, a martyr. And then he says underneath, violence, mass murder. So this is the sort of signature that you would see in people who decide to become a martyr for their religious beliefs and choose to wear explosive devices and die in the name of whatever. You know, that's one example. Okay, I know that's really hard and harsh, but it is unfortunately still. It is an experience of the reality that we live in, right? These things still do happen. There's some biological correspondences as well. He says organic underdevelopment, absence of testicle dehiscence, infantile organs, organic hardening or calcification processes. The following medical observation has been made in the case of lithopedion. Pardon me if I'm not pronouncing some words correctly, i.e. dried up or calcified fetus within the maternal body. This is pretty hardcore stuff. The mother had the following midpoint configuration: Saturn, Pluto, Mars, Jupiter, Sun, MC, according to the practitioner. So he's just giving an example there of the severity of how this can show up when you've got configurations with Saturn, Pluto, and some other points he made as well. Social correspondence, deeply searching scientists, reactionaries, violent people. Probable manifestations: hard, struggling for success, the participation in achievements brought about by large groups or masses of people, the pursuit of difficult work, or a painstaking and thorough search in seclusion, the process of growing spiritually and mentally, silent activity, the pursuit of purely, that was the positive, probable manifestations as he puts this. And then the negative is the pursuit of purely egotistical aims, a person who is prevented by others from reaping the success due to him or her as a result of hard work, the application of force or the compulsion, self-destructive energy, the loss of one's fortune or possessions. Now, I said at the beginning that this wasn't going to be light and fluffy, and clearly I wasn't exaggerating. It's a very, very intense configuration of energies, and from a lower level of consciousness, these can be very typical manifestations. On the positive, however, it's, as I said at the beginning, it's extreme endurance and capability to reach the highest possible order of things. So it's a very, very, very powerful energy. The reason I decided to read this out is because these are some of the correlations we can make with this Saturn-Pluto trying to apply into a conjunction this year, but it doesn't get there till next year. But the undertone of this energy is there for all of us. And it's there in your chart wherever you have this Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Whatever house you have it in, that is the area of life that these undertones could be already felt and experienced in some kind of way. It's the sheer drive and forces of the soul, you could say, because Pluto is the soul, to work through some very, very deep resistances that we may have within us that we are completely unconscious of. So this Saturn-Pluto starts to bubble them up and bring them up into our consciousness. And the natural reaction point to that is to be shit scared. It's to try and deny it, to not want to deal with it, not want to face it. But again, it depends who you are. It depends what's happening in your life. It depends what it brings up for you. But the point is that we have to work through this energy, and it's not a walk in the park. But the outcome, the resolution, the transformation that can come through this experience is completely life-changing. Saturn-Pluto conjunctions don't happen often as well, by the way. So that's bigger picture stuff. The other thing that's happening this month as well, which is really on a lighter note now, is we have, as I said, we have the new moon on the 7th of March, but then we have a full moon naturally 2 weeks later, which is the 21st of March, and it just so happens to be during the equinox. 21st of March is the true new year. Well, it is the astrological new year. It is when the sun ingresses into Aries. So it's 0 degrees of Aries, which truly signifies that the true spring, the true new beginnings, the true new year. 0 of Aries is always the new year, the beginning. So we have this sun ingressing into Aries on the 21st of March, and on the same day, on the equinox, we have a full moon in Libra, which is really quite bizarre because the sun in Aries is the prime indication and movement of energy into new things, into new cycles emerging there again, into birthing new experiences in your life. But we're having it with a full moon in Libra, which is quite a bizarre kind of undertone, really, to be having this full moon in Libra on this equinox period. But I guess one way of understanding it would be to say that, yes, it is the true beginning of things, of the actual astrological calendar year. So there's a lot of new ventures, new experiences starting. But the full moon in Libra will perhaps just bring certain things to illumination, to climax, on that particular day or thereabouts. And those things, are obviously things that have been brewing over the last couple of weeks, you could say. It's just an interesting observation, because it's a strange mixture to have the sun ingressing into Aries, which is the beginning, and Libra, which is opposite to Aries, which represents seeing, having a mirror there. It's kind of like we step into the Aries energy, which is just seeing things from that Aries angle, which is with enthusiasm, excitement, energy, inspiration, drive, confidence, ready to, steam ahead into things. And then the moon in Libra is saying, yeah, but hang on a minute. Well, the full moon in Libra saying, hang on a minute, just check this out over here. It's like a mirror looking right back at you and showing some things to you as well. So it's quite an interesting mixture of energies. Nothing to be alarmed about. It's just an interesting mixture. Quite beautiful, actually. So that's the other thing happening for the month of March. It's the 21st of March. And I just want to, I guess, wrap this up by just saying that Chiron ingressing into Aries, which I've done a video for, and I'm planning to do a part 2, because there's still some more things that I'd like to share with you guys about Chiron transiting in Aries. But those of you that are having a Chiron return, it seems to me, and maybe it's just the clients that I attract based on my own planetary configurations, I attract fairly intense clients in my life, both from a counseling perspective and astrological perspective. But I am working with a client at the moment who's just now having her Chiron return, and it's excruciating what she's going through. It's really very painful to watch, even. And it all just relates back to the Aries archetype, which is that when Chiron is in Aries, and I said this in my Chiron in Aries video, so please watch that to understand this in more depth. But the Chiron in Aries brings up the inherent sense of wounds that might lie dormant, that connect to rejection, not being accepted, and also the experience of somewhere in your psyche, there's some kind of message there that you don't have the right to exist, as it were. So there's no sense of validation within your own self, which is see, Aries, it doesn't have that ability to reflect and see the other side. That's Libra's job. So with this Chiron in Aries energy, there's a lot of projection that's going on with the polarity sign and energy, which is Libra. So, for example, the client that I'm working with is having tremendous self-worth, self-esteem, validation issues that she is experiencing through a particular environment at the moment. And there's a lot of projection issues going on there. But because the wounds are so incredibly deep with her Chiron in Aries, and she hasn't been able to work through that in her life, it's presenting now while she's having her Chiron return in a pretty dramatic way. And the pain is really, really intense on an emotional, psychological, and spiritual level. And I'm simply sharing this because there might be somebody out there that relates to this. So it might just be helpful to understand. And by watching my video in my previous video of Chiron in Aries, I'll just pop the link below anyway, might just help you understand more of what this Chiron in Aries could be bringing up. But this Chiron in Aries is very much connected to this month of March overview, because it's a brand new cycle of whatever it is, wherever Aries is in your chart, that area of life is going to, that area of your life is going to experience the Chiron in Aries vibration. So you would need to put that into the context of which area of your chart Chiron is transiting, and is it forming any aspects to planets in your chart and so forth. So it's not just a case of, oh, Chiron in Aries and that's it. It's a case of actually looking at the various components, which is it aspecting any planets in your chart, any personal planets? What house is it in? Or it may not be aspecting planets in the house of your chart where Aries is, because you might have planets that are very late in Aries and it doesn't get there for another 8 years. But where is 0 degrees Aries in your chart now? That's a birthing of a brand new cycle that's emerging, that really has got to do with healing your core identity in some kind of way. But depending on where it is in the birth chart, that's going to give you the context of how that's going to show up in what domain of life. So, this is a huge cycle over the next 8 years. And then we have Uranus in Taurus over the next 8 years, smashing through old values, smashing through things that we don't want to let go of. Taurus is about attachment. If any sign is about attachment to this physical domain, it's Taurus. And Taurus is the one that finds it the most difficult to let go of the material world, because it's just the nature of that archetype. It's not a judgment. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just the nature of that energy. So Uranus in Taurus is going to smash through all that. Taurians are going to really experience a very, very deep process of letting go of so many things in their life. So pretty powerful things coming into play that do have a direct impact on all of us. And obviously that experience is very different for each of us depending on where these energies are in our birth chart. But getting back to the month of March, it's a bit of it might be a bit of a dizzy month, with that Mercury retrograde in Pisces, conjunct Neptune, new moon in Pisces, the new moon being conjunct Neptune. There's a lot of Pisces energy. So chill out, tune into softer components of life, tune into softer components within you, lay low, take time out. Don't try and resist the forces that are basically asking us to maybe, how can I put this? Asking us to take a step back, to chill out, to relax, to maybe dance, maybe listen to some music more, maybe, just go on a retreat, do some meditations, put some candles on, chill out. I know some people will be thinking, well, I don't have time in my life to do that. I've got so many things going on at the moment. We all do. I've got stuff I'm attending to in my life. Sitting down and putting these videos together is one of them, and there's a lot of work that goes into these. So people who do these, there's a lot of energy that goes into this work. But regardless of that, I'm going to make an effort to allow that Pisces energy to be fused in my world in ways that are healthy and productive. When I say productive, I mean functional. Because the alternative is to basically just get wasted for the next 3 weeks and not worry about it. Nothing wrong with that if you want to do that. That's an outlet for some people. I personally couldn't do that because then I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk to you guys. So yeah, March is a little bit fuzzy. Take it easy and just remember that there's some really powerful shifts taking place. So energetically, on a vibrational level, these shifts are huge. They're very, very big. And the rest of the year is, really, it's not an easy year. I'm not going to say that 2019 is easy. There's some really hardcore things going on, particularly with that Saturn Pluto energy as an undertone and a theme that's building and building and building. But, we've got Jupiter in Sag. That only happens once every 12 years. So we do have that field of consciousness, that field of blessings and opportunities and abundance as well. So, life is not just one dimensional, is it? We don't experience just one dimension. We have all these multi-layers of things going on. So a lot of it comes down to what's calling us right now. What is calling you to really pay attention to from a healthy functional level, from a level of consciousness and evolution and growth and joy as well. That's all very important, because if we get very fixed on just one particular stream, then we really miss out on the opportunity of noticing all the other layers of things that are going on, because there's always multi-layers. I'll leave it there, and I hope that this video spoke to you in some kind of way, to all of you. And I look forward to seeing you guys again soon with something else. Much love and blessings for the month of March. Many blessings for the new moon on the 7th, and many blessings for the full moon on the equinox, which is beautiful, I feel. And just, take it easy and take care. Love and blessings. Bye.